Group PvP in Albion comes in many forms, from small parties of 2 to 3 people to large zergs of 20 plus people. It is one of the most fun and complex parts of Albion gameplay, where there are so many strategies and abilities to take into account at all times, as opposed to solo PvP, where you just have to focus on your abilities and the ones of your opponent. In Season 2 of the Europe server, I participated in a few brawl type fights using mostly a Daybreaker build. This was truly the first season I began participating more actively in group content, and here is my POV of some of the most exciting battles. Come along and learn from my mistakes. Okay, so let's get started with the first fight, and the most important thing to establish first when watching any of these clips is to understand the context of the fight. So that is the most important part, is how many people we have in the party and how many people are we fighting against, roughly, because in these types of battles you really sometimes cannot get an exact number of people you are fighting. We are about 10 people and we are fighting against a small scale team that is under 8 people, so let's see how this goes. So here we have the numbers advantage, and I am always in comms with the rest of the team during these clips. So right now I am communicating to them that I have dismounted one of them and I have actually baited them into the fight. So they only saw me, and 4 people I think dismounted on me, and they were chasing me for quite a while. I was able to get away because the spear is quite good at disengaging and chasing people. So that was a good situation for me to bait them into the fight. And then since we do have the numbers advantage, we are very favored to win this fight. Now we should always keep an eye on the shot caller, and that is the person that usually has the crown symbol on their head. They are the ones who is telling us who to focus on and what strategy we are taking in this fight. So the Daybreaker in these fights has quite a good amount of utility, however it doesn't deal the most damage out of the weapons. You see in our team we have a composition that is made out of many sights, and also we have an Astral Staff which deals a lot of AoE damage, so we are relying on our teammates for dealing most of the damage, and what we can do with the Daybreaker is to apply kill pressure. So we are focusing usually either on a healer or on a target that is the lowest HP at any given time, and what we can do is we have a purge on our E, so that can be quite surprising for the enemy if they try to use their defensives right as they are about to die. Usually that would save them, but we can purge them off and get a surprising kill, which can definitely turn the tide of the battle. At this point we have already gotten quite a few kills, so we have already won this fight, and the stage of the fight evolves to the catch and kill phase, and the goal here is to try to get as many stragglers as possible to get their gear and loot. And again, the spear generally is a pretty good weapon at doing this, so most weapons will not be able to run away from you. In this next fight, the situation is quite a bit different. We have similar numbers and we're trying to secure a purple core, however we are severely outnumbered in this fight. The fight begins quite decently, and at first we start to focus on one of their healers. Our Astral Staff and Sights are dealing a lot of damage, and that allows us to secure the kill at the end. At this point I take quite a bit of damage all at once, and I use my E to disengage, which is probably a mistake since using such an important cooldown not to do anything useful for the team is not great. Another big mistake I make in some of these fights is that I am using a Gigantify potion instead of a resistance potion, which you should always use in small scale fights. The reason for this is that using Gigantify potion debuffs the healing that you receive, and this both applies to the healing you receive from your teammates and to the healing you would receive from your Hellion Jacket if you use it at the same time. The fight was very close, but in the end we just didn't have enough damage to close out the kills, even though they were so low by the end of the fight. In Albion, loss is inevitable and you just have to roll with the defeats. Like in this next clip, where we are taking a heavily outnumbered fight against a rival guild. Our objective was to defend a legendary outpost, however the enemy outnumbered us 2-1, so we should have not taken this fight. This is a lesson that high-level tactics play an incredibly important role in these large-scale fights. Sometimes, no matter how well you play, if you take a heavily disadvantaged fight, you're going to lose no matter what. Similar if you try to fight against a way higher IP opponent than you in solo PvP. Even though we lost that fight, we quickly regeared and moved on to defend the castle that we had control over. Here we were fighting with a big advantage of positioning, and also because our enemy was way overconfident since they had just wiped us in the fight prior. I regeared with a Spirit Hunter because I did not have any Daybreakers left in the hideout, but I had to just quickly put something on and go back into the fight. Even though we are still heavily outnumbered, we take advantage of their overconfidence and our first engage goes incredibly well. Our team deals a ton of damage to their backline and we are able to press our advantage. After brawling for a while, a lot of their enemies had died, so at this point I get carried away and underestimate the damage they are still capable of doing to me, so that complacency get me killed when I could have used my Hellion Jacket way earlier and probably survived by staying inside them. It doesn't matter since the fight is not over yet, so I quickly regear myself with yet a different weapon and get back into the fight. Thankfully my guildmates had already killed a few more of them in the meantime, so by this point the fight was basically won and we were just chasing and trying to catch off the stragglers. As you can see, the fight turned out to be very profitable and our guild enjoyed sharing the loot. In the next fight we once again are able to showcase the catching potential of the spear. Again our enemy underestimates this and I can force a fight yet again by forcefully dismounting one of their players and then waiting for my team to come back me up. This next fight is very interesting as it is quite large scale and it takes place inside of a static dungeon. Our enemy managed to capture a legendary vortex, and while they are trying to take it home, we managed to cut them off and we take the fight to them. In this fight I am using a Stalker jacket. In combination with a Facebreaker, this allows me to put more damage and put more pressure on the enemy team. I do not need the Hellion jacket because I can rely on my healers to top me up whenever I need it. At the same time I am using a Helmet of Valor, and this allows me to have 2 AoE purges in my kit. We are waiting on our shot caller to tell us when to go in, and you can see that everyone at once is going to dive into their enemy team. This is how brawl fights usually go on. However, I do make plenty of mistakes throughout this fight. See if you can point them out and leave them in the comments for others to learn as well. In the end, we managed to successfully clean them up, and I can secure the legendary vortex to take it to our territory. We are rushing at this point because we don't want them to re-gear and come back. We want to secure this objective as fast as we can. Next up, we're taking a very large-scale ZVZ fight, and these fights can get very frantic at times and it's hard to follow what's going on. But the main goal of a brawler is to stick inside their backline and try to disrupt them as much as possible. You have to try to disrupt their damage dealers and their healers as much as you can. Sometimes you have to play something different than what you usually play and you have to adapt to your guild needs. In this fight we are playing a nature healer and our goal is to keep our entire team topped off or to regenerate them after they receive damage from a dive from the enemy team. Group PvP is a lot of fun and has a lot of complexity, so if you are a new player or haven't really gotten into this part of Albion yet, I recommend that you try to do so in the upcoming season. Make sure you find a guild that you like with people that are friendly and are willing to teach you how to play, and you will learn a lot. Be prepared to listen to calls and instructions and also be prepared to die a lot. I hope you've enjoyed watching this and that I've convinced you that you should also try group PvP in Albion. If you're interested in seeing more spear gameplay, albeit it being solo, then check out the video on the screen right now and I'll see you in the next one.